Rise and shine, Nigeria. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's edition of Off the Press, where we discuss newspaper headlines. And to discuss all of these and more, I have with me Gbolahun Olojede. Good morning, and many thanks for joining us.
Good morning.
Now, I guess you also voted on Saturday, isn't it?
I did. I did.
And how was it?
It was not stressful at all. I mean, within 11 minutes, I think, I checked when I got there and when I left the place. It was quite short and it was smooth. In my PU, the card reader worked, and everything was just smooth for me. The people were not as many as one would have expected, so there were elements of voter apathy, obviously.
And impressed with the collation process of our result and announcement?
That has been a disaster in the 23rd February election and even the last one. I had wondered that, okay, in the presidential, after you have done collation from PU to wards to local government to state, you still have to now do it at the center. I thought maybe for the gubernatorial, it should be faster. Things should move.
Since it wasn't going to the center.
Yeah, that wasn't exactly what we saw. It wasn't exactly what we saw.
Well, let's go to the business of the day as we start off with Punch newspaper. And the biggest headline, INEC fixes March 23 for governorship runoffs in 6 states. And we have other headlines here saying, women protest in Sokoto asks INEC to declare Tambuwal winner. Atiku's appeal. Opposition parties leak names of panel members, and we also have Akpabio that Akwa Ibom PDP trade words over governor poll results. Senate begins budget debate, raises minimum wage bill committee, and Onoga appeals against CCT's refusal to rule on his objection. We're compiling reports on Nigerian elections, and that's according to Stuart Simmons, of the United States right here in Lagos. And the EFCC reopens Erastus Akingbola's 10-year-old trial. Air crash, no Boeing 737 MAX operated in Nigeria, says the federal government of Nigeria. And the FG also released 7.3 trillion naira for recurrent capital expenditure in 2018, and that's according to the CBN. Now, let's first of all start with INEC fixing March 23rd for the governorship runoffs in 6 states, Sokoto, Bauchi, and a whole lot more. Well, the elections have been declared inconclusive in those areas.
Correct. It's a very curious situation. I don't think in the history of electioneering since 1999 that we've had this many inconclusive gubernatorial elections. I don't think so. So this raises some questions as to the electioneering process in itself, and then what are the issues that are leading to the inconclusiveness?
Well, they'll tell you that some of the margins of
the inconclusiveness is actually defined in the act, and that is clear. But then, why so many this time? If you look at all the states that were involved, you have a one-term governor seeking a re-election. And then it seems as if the people that are coming in to compete with these governors are giving them the fight of their lives.
Exactly.
So there are several ways to look at it, and we must be able to analyze what really went wrong with this situation so that we can bring lessons out of it. Usually in Nigeria, once you 2 terms is almost given for governors. They just do a term and then go ahead to do the second term before they go to the Senate or wherever else they want to go to. But there is a strong message here that 6 governors who are incumbent may not retain their seat. They may not have a second term.
And women protest in Sokoto, they also ask INEC to declare Tambuwal winner, and we have details of that in page 26. And why do you think they're protesting?
Those will not happen. Those will not happen because in declaring those elections inconclusive, they have given the reasons for declaring them inconclusive. So you can't, that's the law.
But how do you think INEC will be able to successfully conduct, knowing the kind of terrain and what exactly led to all of these results coming out as inconclusive? Do you think they'll be able to right the wrongs this time around?
It's easier. Number one, it's not a statewide, they're not statewide elections. There are identified wards and PUs for this re-election. Number two, they are not in 26 states now. They are in 6 states. So there is, the logistic will be easier, the compilation will be easier, the security arrangement will be easier.
Okay. Yeah. And what do you also make? Senate begins budget debate and raises new minimum wage bill committee. Everybody says, well, implementation is key. It's going to pass the second reading today.
Yes. For about 6 months, governance literally stopped in Nigeria while we're preparing for election and through this electionary process. So it's good to be back on board because there are still a lot of things to be done in this country. So we need to get back to brass tacks and start getting things done.
And again, also appeals against CCT's refusal to rule on his objection. He was absent at yesterday's proceeding.
Yes, he had a toothache and high blood pressure. Normally, that shouldn't be a big deal. If somebody is not feeling well, I don't know whether you have had a toothache before.
I have had a toothache.
If you have, I've forgotten how medical people describe that one, you could almost be rolling on the ground. Some toothache are horrible.
Well, are you impressed with the situation we always have on ground? Why is it that when we have state or political actors, or you name them, once there's a trial pending, there's always an issue of health grounds?
I was just about to say that as well. We've seen that repeatedly. And that has sort of cast aspersion on a real situation. You see someone who is stretched out to the court today, and then 2 days after, you see him at a party. So obviously, there are a lot of pretensions going on with health when it comes to big Nigerians in the court. So this sort of affect people who might have genuine cases. There are actually genuine cases. They are human beings. And they can have all these ailments that we're talking about.
And he also urged the Court of Appeal to invoke the provisions of Section 16 of the Court of Appeal Act, which contended empowered.
Yeah, I think something about the jurisdiction of the tribunal in the first instance, which the tribunal did not rule on. It deferred it. But the question that comes to mind is, why will you defer the case of a jurisdiction and you want to go ahead with the trial? Jurisdiction means, should you even hear it in the first instance? Do you have the right? So you are deferring that and you want to take on the case. It doesn't make sense. In the ordinary, unlearned opinion of mine, you should first of all determine the jurisdiction. Am I qualified to take on this case?
Okay, and moving on now, the federal government of Nigeria has said, well, we don't have any Boeing 737 MAX operating in Nigeria as it is now. We remember the Ethiopian airline crash and all 157 people sadly died, and that is a sad situation. Indonesia, China, and other countries are saying, well, they are banning the use of those aircraft. And I spoke with the PRO of Nigeria Civil Aviation Authority, and he said, well, we don't have such aircrafts in Nigeria, and if we did, we would also take necessary action. But what does this call to mind when we are talking about aviation security this time around? Always ensuring that we do double checks. And according to some reports as well, the pilot was saying, well, he had some issues navigating the plane and wanted to go back to Addis Ababa.
Yes, correct. The 737 MAX, the two last accidents involving them,
Lion Air,
they were new. They were new aircrafts, maybe 6 months or thereabout. So it's not about being an aged and all those kind of things. So obviously, people are just taking a precautionary measure. Nations, literally all the nations, all the countries in Europe have said we don't want this thing for now. Everybody may go back and review the circumstances later on, but for the safety of their people, hang it on for now. And Nigeria also need to take a stand on that. Well, it has been affirmed that we don't have anyone in our system right now, apart from Air Peace that has ordered some, I think about 11 of them. The thing about aircraft is that they're not made like cars and kept in shops for people to come and price and buy. When you place your order is when they start all the
manufacturing
configuration and manufacturing. So Air Peace probably have a window of time to go and sit down with the manufacturers and make a decision on this order that has been placed.
Okay, let's quickly touch on the EFCC also reopening Erastus Akingbola's 10-year-old trial. Finally, some people would say, after 10 years, that's a decade. And
why only Erastus? Why not the others as well?
Okay, now let's also move on to the report. Stuart Simmons, that's the ambassador from the United States to Nigeria, saying that we are compiling reports on the Nigerian election. Some have said, the initial report from the presidential election, they said, well, they termed it as free, fair, credible, despite fraught with irregularities. How can you say it was fraught with irregularities and you still say in another wing that it is free, fair, credible? People have come hard on that and say, well, we don't need validation or we don't need the reports, but what do you think we should be doing now? Making use of all of the recommendations from all quarters that reach
we don't even have all of the recommendations yet. People are compiling recommendations as we speak. What the United States guys are saying is, you can say an election is okay in spite of irregularity, because it is the extent of perversiveness of that irregularity. You compare, say, a Rivers and Lagos, for example. In Rivers, people could almost not go out. There were killings, there were shooting everywhere. In Lagos, the security operative did not release one bullet in Lagos for the elections. Those are two different circumstances. In Lagos, for example, this is not, if we're just looking at numbers, numbers don't have emotions behind them. There are 8,462 PUs in Lagos. If there are issues with 200, that is like 1%. How do you begin to say, therefore, you should do something about Lagos polls? It doesn't work that way.
Okay.
So that's in terms of numbers. There are things that are not numbers that we also must dig through so that we can have a proper assessment.
The entirety of the electoral process.
Exactly.
Okay, we now look at reports from these days. We'll start with the biggest headline as well. INEC holds rerun elections in 6 states on March 23rd to conclude polls in Adamawa, Bauchi, Benue, Kano, Plateau, and Sokoto. And Buhari meets 6 APC governors, insist on free and fair polls. Ruling party backs electoral body on inconclusive elections. And on August 6th, absent from trial, herdsmen kill 85 people in Kaduna communities. And federal government assures Nigerians of air transportation safety and security. More countries ground Boeing 737 MAX 8. Boeing promises to update flight control system. And Nigeria records $2.8 million balance of payment surplus. Now, once again, we have some levels of killings in Kaduna State, and we have details of that in page 8. And then that's suspected gunmen who are said to be Fulani herdsmen. Exactly the point. It's just pretty much an unacceptable situation. What do you really expect of the president now, this time around, in his body language and his message to herdsmen who wield ammunition?
We have to be more firm on this issue of herdsmen. Beyond that, we also need to dig deeper as to what exactly are the issues. Having known the issues again, the political will to take the necessary actions. When you look through the various committees, Kaduna problem did not start today. When you look through the various committees' report over the years, the recommendations are along the same pattern, and these recommendations have not been implemented. So if we continue to pay lip service to those things and we do not take the right steps to address the issues, we will always be at this juncture from time to time. That's the truth.
Well, we hope that the needful is done and we don't have all these records of killings and going
85,
unpunished.
we're becoming something else. We talk about people's death as if we're talking of killing chicken in a poultry. It's ridiculous.
And we see President Muhammadu Buhari and Vice President Yemi Osinbajo still in celebratory mood during the visit of the All Progressives
the work has started.
Congress governors. The work definitely has started. Now, let's also talk about the nation as well. APC PDP boast ahead of March 23rd. Extra elections, Sokoto, Kano, Adamawa, Bauchi, Plateau, Benue for polls. Ganduje, PDP will be shocked. PDP show of victory. Tambuwa, Sokoto APC, we are ready for exercise. Plateau APC, we are set. Date okay, says the PDP.
I'm excited about it.
All of them seem set and they're all optimistic.
Yes.
And
PDP is set, APC is set, observers are set, security agencies are set, INEC is set. So it seems as if we're going to have a much better election in this focused state than we had a few days ago.
Well, don't you think that if both parties, the major parties, are saying we are set, then it means it's also going to be another keenly contested
It will be keenly contested. It will be keenly contested. You have first-term governors who are struggling for a second term. This is not the pattern. Things have changed dramatically.
Do you anticipate we'll see the antics of these politicians play out again?
They will try to do stuff, but it will be more difficult under the circumstances.
Okay. And Oyo police hold suspect in Olatoye sugar murder. Onogen down with high BP toothache. Troops cut Boko Haram supplies and court sack right to oversee firms. Fani Kayode, Odumaki can be held, and Mikel to Marshall Borough's midfield. Now, what do you also make of Oyo police also holding the suspect of Olatoye's murder?
It's nice that they are making early arrests. Usually in Nigeria, all those political killings, they have no solutions. But let's see how this one goes. Maybe we'll get someone punished. And for me, it's also not punishing. It's not about punishing that man
due
who did the
investigation
shooting.
going and ensuring that it reaches a logical end. It reaches a logical end.
Most of the time, the guy that pulled the trigger, it's not the guy that did that killing. He had an assignment to do, and he went there and he did the assignment. Somebody is at the back. And we need to be able to drag people like that who are at the back into the center of this justice before we can say justice was indeed done.
But are you impressed by the the Deputy Commissioner of Police in charge of the State Criminal CID there saying that, well, we are going to withhold the name? Don't you think it's another? Some would say there's some level of conspiracy going on and we have to just
okay, the name of the person arrested.
Yes.
Well, it's difficult to chip in that. There may be reasons. There may be some protection might be necessary in criminal matters.
Okay. And lastly, now let's talk about reports from Vanguard. We have the headlines here. Inconclusive polls, the battleground states. We have Adamawa once again, Sokoto, Rivers still suspended, Bauchi, Kano, Plateau, Benue inconclusive. March 23 dates for make-up polls in Adamawa, Kano and others.
When
Anxiety.
is Rivers? Is Rivers also part of what will be taken on March 23rd?
No, suspended. March 23 dates for make-up polls in Adamawa, Kano and others. Anxiety heightens as INEC holds back on Rivers. Obi expresses concern over Rivers stalemate. PDP flays BMO over president's neutrality claim. Security breach. Ajumobi vows to deal with perpetrators. Gunmen kidnap expatriate in Kano, kill one. And Senate begins 2019 budget debates today, reconstitutes minimum wage committee. And we also look at INEC under 1999 Constitution, election of transformation leaders. And that's according to Are Afe Babalola. Now, Onogen fails to appear for trial, says he has toothache, high blood pressure. More nations, airlines ground, Boeing 737 MAX 8. And Buhari meets 7 APC governors in Aso Rock. Amosu Okorocha in dilemma after defeat of proteges. Now,
can we say something about that?
Exactly.
About Rivers? Because apparently, like you said, Rivers might not be part of the match.
Anxiety is heightening there.
Rerun. What is going on in Rivers is quite unfortunate. And unfortunate because Nigerians actually know the people that are behind what is going on. The two arrowheads of what is going on in Rivers State.
But
they are both Rivers people. The people being killed are Rivers people. There is no external person standing election in Rivers.
Well, you know the APC did not have the opportunity to field any candidate, so...
APC was not in the equation. Even if APC had fielded the candidate...
So it should have been an easy coast into victory for the PDP, isn't it, since there was no strong opposition?
Because the two people that were causing the problem in Rivers State, one of them has a candidate in another party. And that is it. It's not even about... When APC was not even created, when APC was not born, there were crises, killings and violence in Rivers State elections. So there are elders in that land, and they need to do something because there is no Ekiti man or Katsina man contesting election or standing as a candidate in Rivers. The people causing the problem are Rivers people. The people being killed are Rivers people, and they need to do something about it.
And then in Ibadan, pockets of violence that erupted. The Governor Abiola Ajumobi yesterday told those responsible for the security breach to wait for the consequences of their action, vowing that they would be made to face the music. I recall that crisis erupted in major parts of the state as a result of ballot box snatching and the gruesome murder of 7 representatives of the House.
That's right? Well, at the end of the day in Oyo State, I believe the votes of the people counted. People wanted that change. They made it happen. And that's it. And that's what we expect in all parts of the country. One would have expected, for example, that in Kano, after the presidential win that was huge, then the governor of the APC of the same party should have coasted to victory as well. But that was not what we saw. In fact, at the time the poll was considered inconclusive, it was a PDP guy that was in the lead.
And in your last words, how much of a debate do you anticipate this time around ensuring that the reconstitution of the Minimum Wage Committee reaches a conclusive end and we see the proceeds? Every single worker in the country at least earns 30,000 naira.
It's for the National Assembly to do what they're asked to do right now. The presidency has sent the bill to them, and the president said he's ready and they've budgeted for it, they're ready to pay. So let the National Assembly do their bit and let the states be able to implement as the case may be. There may be challenges down the line when it comes to the capacity of some of the states to pay. But when we get to that bridge, we'll cross it.
Most definitely. Thank you very much for your contribution. It's been a pleasure speaking with you.
Thanks for having me
today. And there you have it, all of the headlines from the different newspapers. Make sure you keep abreast with all of the news as they happen. Stay tuned for the rest of our programming. I'm David Alabi. Well, we cannot discuss all of the newspaper headlines without talking sports, and we're still talking about that. Now, good morning, Samson. It's good to have you join us now. One of the biggest stories I see here right in Complete Sports is the fact that Ronaldo hat-trick sees Juve through 3-0 against Atletico Madrid.
Yeah, it was a result that I think even the most optimistic Juventus fan wouldn't have expected, you know, considering how formidable Atletico Madrid is as an opposition. But it calls the question again, you know, the character of clubs like Atletico Madrid compared to the personnel that the opposition team had in Cristiano Ronaldo. The big players tend to show up on the big occasions, and he showed up once again in a very spectacular manner. It was a hat-trick, 2-headed goals, and then a penalty.
Somebody says, the caption here says, single-handedly brought the old lady from the dead.
Yeah, that's what it is. Because going into the match, everyone felt, considering the defensive structure of Atletico Madrid, it was going to be very difficult for Juventus to get 3 goals, have such a wide margin of victory. I wasn't expecting Juve to win in that with that margin, and Ronaldo showed up once again. And it must be said that he had to show up because prior to last night's game, he had scored just 1 goal, in the Champions League this season. So it was a case of not just bringing Juve back, from the dead. It was also a case of making his own, name and face known once again in Champions League.
And Madrid also makes first contact for £100 million hazard, and Conte Ericsson also on Zidane's shortlist. United to loan out Sanchez. What does this mean?
Well, let me quickly delve into the Madrid story. It's apparent that Zinedine Zidane will come up with lots of overhauling of practically the whole team. Lots of the players in there are over the age of 30, and we know quite well in sports, especially football, when you're over 30, you're as good as the twilight of your career. The likes of Modric, Benzema, Sergio Ramos, you can go on and on, Marcelo, they're all over 30. So Madrid really needs to rebuild. And then you look at the kind of players they want to bring in. They didn't adequately replace Ronaldo when he left in last summer. They need to bring someone in to replace. They've been linked with Neymar, Mbappe. Now it's Hazard. Definitely they have to get one of these top 3 players, to replace Ronaldo in there. And in terms of the midfield as well, as I said, Modric is over 32. You need someone to come in. There's Christian Eriksen, at Spurs, who is playing great football at this moment. That also, being linked with Harry Kane, to replace Benzema up front. There's a whole lot of overhauling that is going to happen at Real Madrid, and we look forward to that in the coming seasons. As regards United loaning out Sanchez, it's just best for both parties. Sanchez joined United January last year. Over a year now, is not even scored up to 10 goals. It calls to question his form, character, and the struggles he's had thus far at United. So United really need to get a player who will bang in the goals, provide double digits in terms of goals, and probably assist as well.
And back also step up their treble beat, isn't it?
Yep, tonight, that 12 points, ahead of Real Madrid in the La Liga standing. So you feel like the La Liga title is almost secure, 12 games more to go. In terms of the Champions League, they need to dispose Lyon tonight to be able to, go through. And it's going to be difficult, but it's at no camp. You feel that Barcelona will make it through with relative ease.
Okay, now let's also touch on these. Mikel leads Boro's EPL promotion hunt, and they will also have Etebo also facing late fitness test as well, ahead of Stoke City clash with Derby.
That's a bit of spotlight shown on Nigerian players. The Nations Cup is coming up in June. You're keeping tabs on your players in terms of their fitness, their performances. And for Mikel, the move to Middlesbrough was a shocking one to start with, but it's all about getting yourself back into the spotlight. And is doing quite well in there, settling in well. Let's hope that he's able to push them back into the Premier League. For Etebo himself, is a key player for Nigeria. He's been called up, for the Super Eagles. One will just hope that he's able to stay fit.
He passes through with the test, exactly. And live at 9 p.m. as well today, we'll be seeing FC, Bayern Munich, and then
Liverpool.
Yes, exactly.
That's a big one. It's big because the first leg ended goalless. So what it means is Bayern need an outright win. Liverpool just need to avoid the defeat. And then with Liverpool's attacking front three, they can easily, take the risk, try as much as possible to get an away goal. That will pile the pressure on Bayern Munich to get 2 more goals. And an extra advantage for Liverpool is the fact that Thomas Muller is out of this. His suspension is still on, so he misses this as well. And that sort of weakens Bayern's attacking force.
If you were to play pundits, what would be the score like?
I think Liverpool gets the needed results to qualify. I think so. And then Barcelona will definitely win.
Thank you very much for your time. We've been speaking with our sports correspondent, and sports wraps up the conversation right here on the After Press. Please do stay tuned for the rest of our programming. That's all we can take on today's edition of After Press.